AFC Championship game in the books, NFC Championship game in the books. Dylan, how are you? Another week, hold my helmet. Welcome back. I'm your host, Will Reichling.
And I'm Dylan Boyle.
So we are back. Super Bowl, Chiefs, 49ers. Hit that like button, subscribe, share. Maybe get some merch one day. Hold my helmet, YouTube. Hold my helmet, TikTok. Hold my helmet, Instagram. Let's hit it. Let's go. Patrick Mahomes beat Lamar Jackson. Lamar Jackson, I don't know what that was, man. It's just another playoff. Almost, I don't want to say playoff embarrassment, but like he did underperform. He did press. He was clearly pressing. It was easy to tell that Lamar Jackson was pressing in this game, and he was getting pressured a lot. I understand, but
this was shocking. I mean, you saw the last week that I was very favoring the Ravens in this game, and the way that the Chiefs played is just. They're just coming to that dynasty era. They're like they kind of remind me of the Patriots, where like they're not a team that you want to play at all. And Mahomes themselves carries this team. You know, I don't want to say they put him on his back, but it's just becoming to a point where, you know, is there anything that could stop him?
I don't know. I thought if there was a season or a team or a roster that could hold him back, it was this team, this roster, this season. So this was a transition year, in my opinion. The fact that they're back in the Super Bowl just speaks volumes of this coach, Andy Reid, this quarterback, Patrick Mahomes. He's already, in my opinion, Patrick Mahomes, a top 5 quarterback in NFL history. What he's done in his first 6 seasons as a starter, he's made the AFC Championship game every single season. He's 4-2 in the AFC Championship game, 2-1 in Super Bowls, Michael 3-1 after this. I mean, his passer rating's through the roof for his career. Just keeps winning. What else can you say about the guy? Anyone that hates on Patrick Mahomes hates on football, because this guy is Mr. NFL right now. He's the face of the league.
For sure.
Not Taylor Swift.
No. Obviously, they took a step back after getting rid of Tyreek Hill. The season after, they didn't really show any problems with that, but the regular season, we kind of saw, you know, they were kind of a little bumpy. But just the fact that Patrick Mahomes was able to do it with all those concerns, and it's not like he was in shootouts. He got it done, you know. Clock management, they just were able to get it done, you know. I'm sure if it was a shootout, they'd be able to get it done too, but he kind of adjusted, because it's not like he was taking these wild throws down the field, you know, and he couldn't, so he had to adjust to his receivers, and that's what he did in this game, and it just shows you what type of. He's just very football aware. He's aware that, you know, his receivers, he doesn't trust 100%, so he's not going to have, you know, 300 to 400 passing yards. They're just going to get it done. And on the Ravens side, this game, they really got away from the run game, and that was their key problem. They left it all up to Lamar sitting in the pocket, throwing it out, airing it out, and that's not what this football team is. They were a running team, and the reason that they stepped away from that is because, they're going against Mahomes, and I get that, but at the same time, you know, you can't not do what's been working for you, you know?
Exactly. You hit every nail on the head, Dylan. First, let's start with the touchback fumble that Zay Flowers had. I mean, that they were coming back, kind of driving on that drive, and it kind of killed momentum for them. They had a lot of stupid turnovers in this game. 2 in the red zone were critical. The one with Zay Flowers, he didn't even reach it out, but he kind of put the ball out a little bit to where it was vulnerable. Mm-hmm. And L'Jarius Sneed, what can you say? Made a great play. Those corners, McDuffie and Sneed, might be the best cornerback duo in the league.
Coming on really strong.
Yeah, I think McDuffie went all pro, and Sneed's very underrated. Great tackler, and he showed it there. And like I just said, the Chiefs secondary shutting down that passing game, put a lot of pressure on Lamar, and then they just put in their ears back. Chris Jones and company rushed the passer. You know, Lamar was just befuddled the entire game. He was pressing. You could obviously tell. Like I said, he was forcing the ball into tight windows. That interception in the red zone into 3 defenders. That cannot happen in a playoff game if you're a star quarterback. If you're an MVP quarterback, that cannot happen. You cannot throw the ball into 3 defenders, and that's pressing. Like, he was forcing it. You know, like, he just felt the pressure, knew he had to make a play. Like, those 2 red zone turnovers alone cost him the game. They could have easily been in this game. The way that defense played, the Ravens defense, in the second half of that game, the Chiefs had close to maybe less than 100 total yards in the second half. It was tight for them. They were barely moving the ball. So the Ravens defense did everything they could to hold them in that game. The offense just couldn't come through. 7 points in a playoff game. The AFC Championship game is not going to cut it.
No, not at all. I mean, the defense alone is what kept them in the game, and that's kind of the story of this whole season. Their defense has been phenomenal all year.
Yeah, but you hit on the head. Where was the running game? Where was Isaiah Likely? Like, Mark Andrews comes back. It's like they don't know how to use two tight ends at the same time. One, like, beginning, like, Isaiah Likely went off last season, the end of last season when Mark Andrews got hurt, and then this season he disappeared again. It's like they don't know how to use both of them at the same time. It's a little weird. It's like... and Andrews was just coming back, so the fact that, like, you know, you didn't keep some of what the offense you had before, like, he got hurt, a little weird to me, Todd Monken.
I mean, I get it. There are QB scrambles where it's just, you know, Lamar stepping back and reading the option of whether you're going to run it or throw it. But there was really no, like, quarterback running design plays in that game. And that's really where they went wrong. I mean, they really stepped away, but what they've been doing successfully all year.
Well, here's the thing, too. I hate to be the guy to ask this question. Lamar Jackson is one of my favorite players in the NFL. But will he ever make it back to this point?
Yeah.
Dan Marino. Okay, well, just hear me out. Dan Marino, second season, won MVP, made it to a Super Bowl. Everyone's, lost, but everyone's thinking, oh, he's going to be back. This guy's one. Look at the talent. And this guy is just, he's so good. What did he throw? 48 touchdown passes that season. No quarterback at that point has ever had a season like that. I think he was the first ever to get that many touchdown passes in a season, throw for as many yards as he did. He was a monster that season, Dan Marino. And what did he do? He never made it back. So there's a lot of quarterbacks like that. Phillip Rivers never made a Super Bowl. I think he only made his one conference championship game. A lot of quarterbacks that never get to the big game. Not even win the big dance, get to the big dance. And he's still, this is the farthest he's went. And I think it's fair to ask if he's, like, chokes in the playoffs because he kind of did it again. I mean, this might have been his worst game of the season, and this is the most important game of the season. So it's fair to ask those questions. Now, I'm not saying they're valid. I'm not saying that I believe in them, but I'm saying it's fair to start asking those questions.
That's a really interesting take because this is actually interesting too. There's only been two quarterbacks to make it to the Super Bowl after the age of 30 being on the same team. Like, without being in the Super Bowl before that. It was Matt Ryan and Peyton Manning. So, it is how old is he now? What?
I think he's like 26 right
26.
now. He's 27,
so he's creeping around that age where, you gotta start doing something here.
And it was a little weird because on the fourth down where he ran up the middle, it looked like he was about to take off for a touchdown. And then it's like he stopped. I don't know if he stopped running or he got caught. It looks like he might be losing a step, so this is going to keep happening. So, like, if he doesn't learn to improve as a pocket passer, like, I was ready after the first quarter, that touchdown throw to Jay Flowers, beautiful throw. I was ready to type up and say how he's evolved as a pocket passer, and then within 3 quarters, completely regressed back to what he was a few years ago. It was crazy watching that. Oh my God! I
really think it was the offense design, their scheme.
It was a big factor. I do agree with that. They did not run. It's like they ran the ball all year, and all of a sudden, the second half just forgot to run the ball. It was like, oh, I forgot I have Gus Edwards. I forgot about this read option that's been working all year long. Let's turn Lamar to a drop back passer. You're absolutely right, Dylan.
That's just not what they are. And they haven't been prepared for that. Like, yeah, once in a while dropping back and letting go. But that's just because you have such an aggressive run game that, you're having the linebackers bite and step up, and that's why you have those guys open. And it's just like they expected something completely else to work, and it didn't. Respectfully so.
I think they got a little nervous because the Chiefs came out firing all cylinders. Kelsey had one of the best games of his career, especially considering people have been saying that he was washed. So they probably got a little nervous, and they thought they were going to have to play catch-up the whole game. But then the defense started to stop them in the second half. And, Dylan, you never know in the NFL. This is what I'm saying, because look at this season, the AFC Conference. Joe Burrow was out for the season. Justin Herbert and the Chargers, terrible season. And, the Chiefs, this looked like a transition year. This looked like an off season for them. Didn't look like they were going to take it all the way. This looked like a wide open season for Lamar Jackson and the Ravens to go to the Super Bowl. And it might never be as wide open as it was this year, is what I'm saying. This might have been their one and only chance. And I think it's fair to ask that question now if they ever make it back, because it just seemed like such a weird year to where they ended up with the 1 seed because of all the things happening around them, and it just might not be like that again. So
listen, I get what you're saying, but at the same time, you got to look at all the games that they played. You got to see how they were playing, see how great Lamar is playing. Listen, you don't get MVP for just getting by.
You don't get it on accident. I agree. I agree.
Yeah, pure luck. And they got a good thing going with this team. I think I feel like if you would have put anybody in that same game, any team in that same game against the Chiefs, the same thing would have happened. They're Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes are just such a great duo. They're definitely going to be a great franchise moving forward.
Well, that's the thing, though. Burrow beat Mahomes in the AFC Championship game 2 years ago. And the last season, they almost won again. They went back. It seems like Burrow and Mahomes have a decent rivalry building. I know Burrow got hurt. Who would you take? Joe Burrow, Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson? I know, it's tough.
I think Lamar.
You would take Lamar Jackson?
I would still take Lamar. Yeah, sure.
I would have to take Joe Burrow. I know he gets hurt a lot, but the guy's a winner. Every season he's played a full season, he's made at least the AFC Championship game. So I got Joe Burrow there. It's crazy. Neither of us said Josh Allen. A lot of people would say Josh Allen in that situation.
I mean, they're starting to becoming like the Bills. I mean, give it another season or two, and they're going to be in the same position the Bills are in.
Yeah, Harbaugh and McDermott could end up in this. Harbaugh won a Super Bowl, McDermott hasn't. Don't want to put them in the same spot. But, I definitely get what you're saying there. But let's move on to the NFC Championship game. Lions, 49ers. The Detroit Lions were so close, man, to going to a Super Bowl. Their first Super Bowl. I was like typing notes, getting ready. Like, wow, the Lions are about to go, like... Damn, and it was lining up for them. They beat the Chiefs week 1.
Yeah.
That
would have been a great matchup.
They could have won a Super Bowl this season.
The first half, I thought the same thing. They were firing on all cylinders. They were doing what they had to. 49ers were not looking good, but that second half, it was a complete change.
Did you blame it on Dan Campbell?
No, I don't blame it on Dan Campbell. Listen, they did amazing.
What do you feel about all the everything that proceeded in that second half and first half? Let me just bring back a couple of things that happened. So third quarter has the opportunity to kick the field goal and go up by 3 scores. At that point, it's getting late. The Niners, you could literally field goal them to death at that point. It's going to be tough for them to come back if you keep getting threes on them. And, they go for fourth down. Yes, Josh Reynolds had a huge drop on that, but they failed to get it. And, that they had a chance to go 3 scores and to get it.
Momentum there.
Purdy started to step up big time, was making big throws when he had to, making plays with his feet, which we haven't seen a lot of this season. And, then the Niners take the lead, score 20 unanswered points. And then, again... Dan Campbell has the opportunity to tie the game. You're in the playoffs, playing for a Super Bowl. You're not playing good right now. The 49ers have all the momentum. Don't you want to just take a reset, tie the game? Goes from the fourth down, doesn't get it.
I get what you're saying, but at the same time, that's what got them there this season.
I get it.
He's been an aggressive.
Oh, I absolutely agree. Definitely got him there this season, but you can't hold every situation the same. Like this is what we are. This is what we do. Not every situation is the same, bro.
Yeah, you're completely right. And I think he's just gonna have to mark this off as it happens. Maybe he's gonna be a little more conservative in the following season because I don't know. This season, you didn't expect him to even make it this far. So I think it's a win in their books regardless.
I agree. I
think it's just, you mark it off as a learning experience right there.
And you know what? Like, anyone that's saying that this guy should be fired for this, what are you doing, man? Look, this guy has gotten them to this point.
Exactly.
From rock bottom. Do you remember 2 years ago when they were like 0-10 at one point? This guy came from rock bottom with this team. And everything he says afterwards in the press conference, taking the blame. I like this guy, man. Just like he's relatable. Like he's just relatable. He'll admit when he makes a mistake. There's a lot of coaches in this league that can't do that. He's the first to do it. Towards the end of the game, I think it was one of the last drives when they went to run for a touchdown and they got stopped, so the clock kept running. A big mistake. He said that he told Ben Johnson, the offensive coordinator, to do that. How many coaches will take the blame like that? That's a leader, man.
He's a great coach.
That's a leader, and I've laughed at him at times. I've definitely been the first to criticize him with some of this fourth down decisions this year. I'm not always for that. Sometimes I disagree with a lot of his decision making. But as far as a leader, man, there's not a lot better than Dan Campbell. I'll give him that.
I mean, listen, his players respect him. You don't really get that a lot in the league. You'll have people you'll hear people talking back to their coaches, or you'll hear like rumors going around where they don't really agree with what the coaches are doing. Everyone is behind Dan Campbell and what he does.
Absolutely. And remember, they're kind of young, Dylan. This was the first time in the playoffs, really, under this regime. They'll be back. I don't think it's fair to ask in this situation, will they ever be back at this point, similar to Baltimore? You want to know why? Because the NFC is kind of a little more wide open than the AFC. Yeah. I think the Lions, it should be very reasonable that they, going to next season, should be the second best team in the NFC.
For sure.
Like, that should be the belief and thought in that organization and outside the organization, just around the league. They should be the second best team next year.
Yeah, they should be. And So what do you think they do regarding quarterback position? Like, do you think Goff is
Goff,
going to be
dude? Goff played great. Goff played. He played great that game.
Agree.
That was not on him. The drops by Reynolds, the fumble by Gibbs, going for the fourth down. They did everything they could to blow that game for Jared Goff. Jared Goff played. And you know me, I'm very critical of Jared Goff sometimes. I'm sitting here telling you, he had a good game, man.
He did.
You know what a good game too? Brock Purdy. He played terrible in that first half, but he really got it going. And it was like his instincts finally kicked in. He's like, oh, I can make plays with my legs. He looked a little quick, a little elusive. And you know what? Everyone's saying, like, this guy's not elite. He might be the weakest link. That made me so. But when you're making his salary, $870,000, okay? He is the best bang for their buck. He's the best bang for his buck in the NFL. For the amount of his production amount for what he's getting paid, he's the best value in the league.
Yeah, and for a quarterback to have his first full season and to make it to the Super Bowl, yeah, you have players all around you, but
30 touchdown passes.
Quarterback, you need the quarterback to perform.
30 touchdown passes, $870,000. 30 touchdown passes, $870,000. Think about all the players they could keep stacking on this roster with this rookie contract.
Yeah, for 2 or 3 more years.
Now,
for sure.
I would, people are going to say, oh, you're going to have to pay him soon. Give him another year with this rookie contract, maybe even 2. What's the rush? This guy's not, you have all the leverage here. So,
I mean, I think it's fair to say that he could be their franchise quarterback.
Oh, he might.
Yeah, I think
he might demand a contract after this season. That's going to be tough if he does.
He doesn't seem like the type of guy to do that, though.
No,
I think he's willing to, like, kind of like a Joe Burrow. Like, he's willing to, like, wait a year or 2.
I hope so, because the amount they can just keep adding to this team, and we'll see how it happens. They win the Super Bowl, they might want to pull back. They're like, okay, we finally got there.
Well, listen, that's fine, but, like, it's kind of like the Chiefs effect. They know they have a great team. People are kind of willing to take a pay cut and to know, like, we might be here next year and the following year. And at this point, there might be players that would be like, okay, I'm okay with taking a couple less than the next guy.
Yeah, if you can get other people around this team to start to take slight pay cuts, then it'll keep working. I think it really depends what happens in this Super Bowl. If you win, you might want to pull back. Be like, okay, we finally got that Super Bowl. Kyle Shanahan finally got his first Super Bowl. But if you lose, they're going to want to get back there again, so they're going to be desperate. So it could go either way. But Brock Purdy right now, to me, by far, is a no-brainer home run right now as far as contract and being the starting quarterback of the Niners.
For sure.
I mean, there's nothing. You're paying him pennies. You are paying him pennies, and he's a Pro Bowler. So I mean that. Look, he doesn't have elite talent. He doesn't have elite arm talent. He's not even an elite runner, but he's got elite intangibles, and he just has a moxie. Like, he knows how to make big plays in big moments. He's done it all year. Even in the first half when he was playing like shit, he had one throw where he got completely leveled and stood in the pocket and made the throw. A tough, tight throw. So, I mean,
he makes those plays when you want him to.
He definitely can. So, 49ers, Chiefs, Super Bowl. Early takes on that? You got any early thoughts on that Super Bowl?
This is going to be a really interesting one.
Rematch of the one a few years ago. The only difference, you got Purdy instead of Garoppolo. McCaffrey's there. Debo's a little more bona fide star than he was. I don't think Ayuk was there. Kittle was there. So there's a couple different changes.
The main thing I might be a little worried about is this Chiefs defense against this 49ers. I'm kind of interested to see how he responds to the pressure. Lamar, how quick he is on his feet. He got sacked this game.
Yeah.
So he's gonna have to be making moves on the run, and I'm kind of curious to see how he responds to that pressure.
So early take for me, initial thoughts. It's hard to bet against the Chiefs. I think we've learned that throughout the years. And first thoughts win this game. 49ers had the better offense. Chiefs had the better defense as far as talent and roster.
Yeah.
But these Chiefs cornerbacks are just playing like complete studs and are complete studs. That secondary is really going. That D-line's been going. I just think Purdy's going to struggle. I think they're going to create pressure on Purdy. This is my initial thought. But my initial thought is telling me Chiefs. I think they have the better head coach, even though Kyle Shanahan's elite. Andy Reid's on another level right now. Patrick Mahomes, better quarterback. And I just think that 49ers D-line is very, very overrated. For what they pay for that D-line, it has struggled. Chase Young has been non-existent. You got some players getting older. Nick Bosa played good last game. But other than that, it's looking rough. And I think Pacheco's potentially could run all over them. He might have a field day in this Super Bowl. He might end up being Super Bowl MVP. You know what? Early take Isaiah Pacheco Super Bowl MVP.
Wow, that's interesting.
Don't think that will definitely happen, but that'd be pretty funny if it did. Because, I think we all know, because beginning of the season, 49ers, the first thing you think of is, oh, that D-line's ferocious. But then once you start watching them on national TV in the playoffs, you realize, wow, this D-line has really underperformed this season. So that's my early take on this. I got Chiefs right now. That could change as the week goes on, but early take Chiefs.
I'm still pondering it. I'm going back and forth, like the advantages of each team. It's hard. You're right. It's hard to bet against Mahomes. I was doing it. I did it last week.
So did I.
It bit me in the ass.
Yep.
Just the way that they performed. If they performed like they do in the Super Bowl, and it seems like they are because they seem like they excel in these tough spots in the playoffs.
High leverage moments, absolutely.
I don't know. I kind of want to take the Chiefs, but then on the other hand, I'm thinking about this. When everything's going right for the 49ers, I don't think anyone could stop them.
But I agree with that. Yeah, I mean, like when they were dominating the Dallas Cowboys, but then you see that Ravens game, man. The Packers almost beat them. It's tough though. They have to. All playoffs, they haven't been rolling on all cylinders.
No, they played from behind to the three of the games.
Maybe that comeback is what they needed, is light a fire under their you-know-what. But on a side note, Kadarius Toney, man. What's going on with that situation? I mean, they basically said that he was injured / personal reasons scratch. Basically trying to cover his rear end, saying like, I'm trying not to make a scene about it. Probably felt bad for the guy, and then he comes out and is like, nope, he benched me. He made himself look stupid even more by coming out and saying, oh no, there was no health reasons. I just got bent. Like I think. Do
you think it's fair for them to bench him?
I mean,
I don't think it wasn't just him that was dropping balls and making mistakes.
Well, I think
there's kind of all around.
I think there's more going on. That's the thing. Practice, not effort. There might be more to this than just production on the field. That's what I mean.
Yeah, that's fair to say. It seems like he's not really like a team player.
Honestly, I'm inclined to say the stuff off the field has led to the stuff on the field. Maybe that's what's going on here. Maybe he's been distracted. I can't put these things into people's actions because I don't know for a fact. I'm just making assumptions based on what I've seen and what I've heard, and I think that's fair to say. But it could be crazy. But
I mean, I think it comes down to Mahomes and what he says. If he says, "Okay, I don't trust this guy," then they don't start him, and that's it. That's kind of fair to say.
That's powerful too.
It is,
because he's like I said, he's the face of the NFL. So if the face of the NFL don't want you, it's tough sledding for him, man. It's rough.
I mean, nothing else I can really say there.
It's a shame because he was a high draft pick, and like we've said, when the ball in his hands, he looked like one of the most electric players at one point. At one point, it just hasn't lived up to the Super Bowl last year had the touchdown, had a big punt return.
I think he could excel on another team. I feel like,
but if he couldn't excel in the Chiefs, where is he going to excel? It's tough. It's tough. Maybe McVay. I mean, he makes all the offensive pieces work, so maybe he goes there. I don't know. It's tough for sure. But let's move on to some hires around the league in the offseason. And the biggest ones, the Philadelphia Eagles, man. They get, this isn't official yet, but it seems like they're about to finalize getting former offensive coordinator of the Chargers and Cowboys, Kellen Moore. Since Jim Harbaugh went to the Chargers, he's obviously going to bring in his own guys. So Kellen Moore, most likely to the Eagles. Don't want to say definite. And Vic Fangio, pretty sure this is definite, will go to the Eagles. So one of the top defensive coordinators in the league, leads the Miami Dolphins. I guess he had some sort of problems with Mike McDaniel. I don't understand what happened there. But big moves. We said Sirianni needed to get some good coordinators, and he has. So this, I think, early take for next season, I think Jalen Hurts bounced back with Kellen Moore. I think Kellen Moore is creative. We've seen it on the Cowboys and on the Chargers. He gets a little too cute sometimes, but I think too cute is what this offense needs.
That's what I was saying.
They're basic. So
they are very basic, and that's exactly what they need, some sort of spark to get them going. And they're a team that, they need those special plays. They need Jalen Hurts to, you need to go into this game and not know what they're going to run. They got to be unpredictable.
Exactly. No, absolutely. Like, they need creativity, and they got it. And on defense, whatever that was last season, like this past season defensively was a disaster. Now they have a defensive coordinator that's going to do everything he can to make sure everyone's playing at their highest level on that defense. He did it in Miami. He turned them around basically the second half of the season. I think he's going to do it with this defense. So the Eagles, I think, will be back in the lead of the NFC East next season. So
you know what's the defensive coach that I'm wondering where his landing spot's going to go? Wink Martindale.
Yeah, good point.
Maybe on the Chargers.
It's weird because I figured he would have been a top candidate.
That's what I was thinking. I'm like, wait, where's he going?
So maybe it wasn't Dable. Maybe it was Wink. Maybe Wink just gives people hard. Like, why'd he leave Baltimore to go to the Giants? Maybe he's the one that gives people a hard time. Maybe I was looking at this wrong. Maybe it's Wink and not Dable.
I don't know. I think he's definitely going to. have a good
Oh, he's a
spot.
great. He's a top defensive coordinator. I would
Yeah.
take him on my team any day. I mean, what he did for that Giants defense the last 2 seasons, and what he did for the Ravens defense before that. So that's a little weird. Speaking of defensive coordinators that had turned, that are looking for jobs. Bill Belichick, defensive coordinator, head coach. What happened with Atlanta? It looked like Arthur Blank and the Atlanta Falcons wanted him as the head coach of the Falcons. What happened, I think, was they didn't want him as the GM. And the people that were already in the office, I think, got in Arthur Blank's ear because they knew they were going to get fired if this guy got hired, and saying, "Hey, I don't think this is a good idea." Kind of getting in his ear.
Yeah.
Now, I agree. I wouldn't want Bill Belichick being my GM either. After seeing his drafts, they've been awful. But if Arthur Blank made this decision based on other people getting in his ear that didn't want to get fired, shame on you, man.
Yeah.
Shame on you. So I'm mixed with this. But they hired Raheem Morris for Rams defensive coordinator. How do you feel about all this?
Well, in Bill Belichick's eyes, I think it's a better idea. You take a year off, relax, look over the options. Because there's going to be quite a few options coming up this fall.
Potential options,
because
yes.
there's a lot of coaches that are on the hot seat.
Or retiring, but dare I say Andy Reid.
Andy Reid, that would be a great landing spot. But
Nick Sirianni, Eagles.
I've been hearing rumors in NFL sources saying, he wouldn't mind going to the Giants. He even said it himself, I love the Giants and their facility.
Oh, yeah. Well, he's got a great relationship with the Giants. He's a lifetime Giant. But I just don't see, unless Dable's a complete disaster this upcoming season,
what I'm saying.
I don't see him getting fired.
Yeah. And there's other places he could land, like, Dallas, Mike McCarthy.
Dallas.
You don't know what's going
Dallas
on there.
is a great landing spot for him.
Yeah.
Philadelphia, he could be fired. If Sirianni could be fired at the end of the season, you never know.
The Bills.
Sean McDermott, Buffalo, great. Same for Vrabel. Why hasn't Vrabel gotten the job yet either? Mike Vrabel, that one's weird too. Maybe he's waiting again for next season.
Waiting out his options.
Waiting out his options for sure. I don't know why they went with Raheem Morris. So I know. He was a good defensive coordinator on the Rams. I think he was the head coach of the Bucks. Dare I say, before Bruce Arians? I gotta double check that. Regardless, I don't think it went great. I don't think it went awful either. Mm-hmm. But I would have went with another offensive guy if I was the Atlanta Falcons with all those pieces. They have a good defense though, but I get it because Arthur Smith was an offensive guy and that didn't work out. So I get you wanting to go defense.
Yeah,
so I get it.
Make some sort of change going
yes,
on.
so I definitely understand. He was a top defensive candidate going into the season. So moving on, Ben Johnson. It looked like Seattle was a good landing spot for him. It looked like Seattle might have wanted him, but he decides to stay with the Lions. He tells the Commanders and the Seahawks that he was going to stay with the Lions after we were starting to hear that he was going to go with the Commanders. I actually agree with this because apparently his asking price was really high, money-wise, but also I think he's just waiting for the perfect landing spot, to get that perfect quarterback, because right now you have a great situation. Don't rush yourself into a bad situation. You got one of the top offenses. You almost made it to a Super Bowl. Keep working on your craft. Keep getting better. You're not going anywhere. You're not going to get fired. You already have shown that you're a top offensive coordinator, head coach candidate. So,
I think everyone knows that these crazy plays are kind of Dan Campbell's doings, and this is a great offense. So why not just keep riding off with it? I can see them making the Super Bowl, and that would just make your asking price go up even more. So why not?
Yeah, no. So I definitely see and understand why he would stay there. You're in a great situation. You end up on the wrong team, you can never get that shot again to be a head coach.
Yeah.
So you don't want to pounce on the wrong moment. I think he knows that he's a highly talented candidate, so he knows that he could just pick his spot. A lot of these guys just jump into it because they know they might never have the opportunity again. You never know how next year is going to go.
Yeah.
So, look. Eventually, I think next year's going to have to be the year he pulls the trigger, because eventually it's just going to get dude, make a move. So next year you're going to have some good landing spots, I think. So we'll see what happens with that. Other small moves around the league. This isn't really small, but Mike McDonald, Ravens defensive coordinator, will sign with the Seattle Seahawks as the head coach. So Seattle going with the young defensive guys. So surprising they didn't go with Dan Quinn, former coordinator, Dallas coordinator now on the defensive side. Surprising, I heard they were going to go back with him. I guess they want to go with a guy a little younger. So they'll stick with their defensive culture there. Bringing in a young guy though, so that's good. I would have liked to see them go offense, but I always like to see people go offense. Arthur Smith, former Falcons head coach, going to the Steelers as the offensive coordinator. I think that's better than Matt Canada. But
I think that's a lot better than Matt Canada.
Yeah, people did not like him on the Falcons, but I think he just had too much to focus on being a head coach. Being an offensive coordinator, he was good at in Tennessee. He did a good job of Ryan Tannehill, so I think he'll do a good job here.
I think they're going to excel with him. They've kind of showed they need something to get going on offense. As soon as Matt Canada left, they kind of started going off. So I feel like this offense does have a lot of potential. You just need the right guy in there.
Yeah, so that's mostly the moves that are going around. A lot of other little stuff. Oh, David, one more kind of big one. David Canales, former Bucks offensive coordinator, going to the Panthers. So I think that'll be good for Bryce Young too, because he did well with Baker Mayfield. Baker Mayfield is short, he's accurate, kind of similar to Bryce Young. So I think he'll do a good job here. You just gotta get some more pieces, and I think this could be a match made in heaven in a way. It could be a sneaky good hire, in my opinion.
Another team that's kind of, what else can go wrong? So
exactly,
I feel like anything would do good over there.
I agree.
I think we forgot the big one though. Jim Harbaugh.
Jim Harbaugh to the Los Angeles Chargers.
And we were saying it last week, that they've been talking about it a lot.
I guess I already made that set in stone, but let's talk about that. That's a big one. Jim Harbaugh to the Los Angeles Chargers. Everywhere he's went, he has succeeded. Stanford, I think, was like 1-10 the year before he came. Immediately turns them around, 10 plus wins every year. 49ers were a shit show with Alex Smith, number 1 overall pick, looked like a complete bust. Jim Harbaugh gets out. They're in the NFC Championship game. They're in the Super Bowl. Then he goes to Michigan. They can never beat Ohio State. They were never relevant anymore. Boom. A couple of years in, beating Ohio State every year, winning the national championship this season. So Jim Harbaugh, everywhere he's went, he's won. The Chargers need a head coach. Harbaugh wants a star quarterback. He gets one. Justin Herbert needed a star head coach. He gets one. I think this is a home run. Chargers in the playoffs next season.
Yeah. Listen, the Chargers, before this season, they were that team. It's like, okay, they need 1 or 2 more pieces, and they're gold. They're ready to go. And a lot has happened between last season and this season, but they are still in that position. I really think it came down to coaching in this position, because they had all the pieces they wanted, just nothing planned out to how it was supposed to.
Exactly. Brandon Staley was a complete disaster and was a bad coach. So I think the thing that they needed was a coach to come in and create a culture, because it seemed like the players in the way did not respect Brandon Staley. Yeah. Players are going to respect Jim Harbaugh. He demands respect, and they're going to be better at the line of scrimmage. I think they had some good pieces on the offensive line, but it struggled this season. They had a couple injuries, but I think that's what he does best. Every team he's been on, he's controlled the line of scrimmage with his offensive line and his defensive line. So I think that's where he's going to start. I don't think Eckler will be on this team next season. I think they'll draft a running back in the later rounds. You got to remember, college coaches that come into the NFL, they know all these. They're getting drafted the first 4 or 5 drafts because they've played against them in college, so they know these. They don't even have to scout these players; they know them on the back because they scouted them in college. Yeah, so exactly,
and they can still get a lot from Eckler. He's still, he didn't have that good of a season towards the end of the years, but he's still a performer, and he still has that name on him.
You might be able to get some kind of draft pick. Maybe it might be a late round, but you'll get something just because he's just getting older.
Hey, listen. I know we haven't mentioned the Cowboys that much, but Tony Pollard, he didn't pace out to how
he's not a one.
Supposed to. And Eckler on that team.
Eckler was never a great runner. He was a good runner, but he was never a top running back in the league. But he can run in between the tackles like Tony Pollard can. I'll give you that.
Listen, I think they keep Pollard and they get what they go. They get back to what they were doing before when they had
Zeke
with Zeke.
Eckler could play a little bit of a Zeke role. He could run in between the tackles. Pollard can't. Pollard's more of a change of pace guy. So you got a good point there. My New York Jets, The Athletic came out with an article, nice little article here. Spoke to 30 sources in and around the organization. 30 sources. Okay. Jets declined to comment. Rodgers did not respond to a text requesting comment. One Jets coach said it's such an effing mess. Something has to change. From the article of The Athletic. Over the summer, Rodgers collaborated with Hackett to construct the offense. Saleh, as usual, is hands off on that side of the ball. Blah, blah, blah. The Jets learned in 2023 that although Rodgers and Hackett called the offense quarterback friendly, that might only apply to one quarterback. Quote, "That's what Aaron wants," was a common refrain from Hackett as he told coaches what plays he wanted to run during camp. And as this article goes on, we see that as Rodgers went down, they chose not to go with the backup quarterback. They stayed with Zach Wilson. Hackett struggled to adjust the offense to the team's new reality. Multiple coaches and players described Hackett as lacking in attention to detail. For most of the season, Hackett would meet with the offensive line / coach running game coordinator Keith Carter and passing game coordinator Tom Dowling during the week, but wouldn't get together with the rest of the offensive staff until the last minute of game prep. One last point, and this is the biggest point that I saw from this, that makes me really worried about this offensive coordinator and this, in a way, this quarterback, Dylan. So, growing pains were expected in a new offense full of new personnel, but one coach said it was concerning how little urgency Hackett and his staff showed in trying to fix it, saying he'd never seen a team watch less practice tape in training camp than the Jets did with Hackett. New York's talented defensive line was consistently outplaying them in practice. All this is pointing to me is that Nathaniel Hackett, the offensive coordinator of this New York Jets team, should not be the offensive coordinator of the New York Jets. Now, everyone's going to say, okay, but he was the offensive coordinator when Rodgers won 2 MVPs in Green Bay. Mike LaFleur called the plays. This guy didn't call the plays. He was just... Another point in this article said that Rodgers' relationship with Hackett is more of
like
frat bros, instead of coach quarterback. Frat bros.
Well, listen, you kind of
Dylan, this article is that's crazy, man.
That
30
is.
sources. 30 sources.
Listen, this is exactly what you kind of expected to get with Aaron Rodgers. I don't want to say this, but he kind of is like a cancer, in a way. If everything doesn't go his way, then it doesn't go at all, and all hell breaks loose. And that's what's happening here. And I think you're going to have some problems if they do get rid of him.
You see, it's tough because I do feel like Rodgers would mask a lot of this with his play, but you definitely need to get some pieces in the offseason. You need some offensive pieces, but like if you're going to roll it back with this guy, I guess like, I don't know, man. It looks like that Mike LaFleur was a lot of the reason for the offensive success with Rodgers, and the Hackett was just the guy that happened to be there where he got success from association. I don't know, man. It just seems like this guy's lackadaisical. He's kind of just a dude, man. Just kind of just like reminds me of like or some of our friends, man. That just like laid back and just done. I mean, that's good. That's fine for a 25-year-old, but for whatever being a coach in the league, coaching Aaron Rodgers and the New York Jets. I mean, it just seems like this guy doesn't have enough urgency.
I mean, it just seems like Aaron Rodgers kind of wants to do it his way, and he just wants somebody that's kind of like a pushover.
Yeah, and it seems like Rodgers just exactly. It's
and
so
that he can run the
and in that article, Hackett was calling many plays in training camp, and Rodgers was just nodding them off and making his own play, and basically the offense would reset every time. So what's the point of having the offensive coordinator if you're going to be the offensive coordinator? You need someone that gives you pushback.
But you knew this was going to happen when you got
in a way.
You knew what he's done in Green Bay. Yeah, it was nice when you heard it's like, yeah, he doesn't care about the money. He doesn't, but he wants to play how he wants to play. And he's not going to really take anything from anyone.
So will the Jets be better next season?
That's a tough question.
I mean, it's hard to be worse offensively.
It really depends on what they do in the offseason. I mean, you know what your problem is. I don't think you need to get any more weapons. You need to get some protection on that line. Point blank.
I think it's the number one priority. Tackle. I think they do need one more wide receiver. But look, man, if this is going to be your guy calling your plays, it doesn't really matter. I mean, he was reluctant to adjust. It just seems like he was lazy and he wasn't anticipating stuff like this. New York Jets. But all right,
what do you expect?
Yeah, let's end on that note. We got Super Bowl picks next week, guys. We're gonna have a little off week. I mean, we got the Pro Bowl games and all that such. Oh, and we will discuss next episode. We will discuss our predictions for the regular season awards: MVP, Coach of the Year, Offensive Player of the Year, Defensive Player of the Year. So we will get into that.
Yes, we will.
Thanks, Dylan. See you guys next week.